thanks for doing this, first of all. And
Yeah.
for those not familiar with you, would you mind sharing a little bit about your background, your role on the team, and your experience so far in your journey in real estate?
Yeah. So I got into real estate in 2021. Prior to that, I was in the car industry for 7 years. For 4 of those years, I was a sales manager. So ran a couple dealerships, Honda and a Subaru dealership. So super familiar with sales, CRMs, and follow-up. But yeah, switched over to real estate to give it a try in 2021. In my first 7 months, I did 32 transactions and 13.8 million. Won Rookie of the Year for the Albuquerque, which was pretty cool. Shortly after that, became the director of leads for the brokerage that I was working with, because I also developed basically a system with Home Partners of America, and we ran the number one national team for Home Partners of America. So we won an award, which was kind of cool. And then that's where I really kind of took off and started doing their Zillow accounts and stuff like that for the brokerage. About a year and a half ago, K2 reached out and gave me an offer recruitment wise that I couldn't refuse. So came over as their director of sales, and then took over pretty much all of their lead systems. And then I'm the full-time coach for the team as well.
Okay, cool. And for sake of context, how big is y'all's team that you coach?
Yeah, so we're just about to cross over about 60 agents. We're in 5 different states now. So Florida, Boston, Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico. But our main hub, where I think we're just around like 35 agents, is in New Mexico.
Okay, great. And Christina and I talked, and she kind of outlined your training. I'd love to kind of start there as a way of talking about onboarding. Now, before we do go into that, are you involved in the recruitment of the agents to the team, or are you catching them once they've been recruited?
No, I'm actually, I wear a lot of different hats. So no, I do most of the recruitment calls too. So I usually am the recruiter as well. And then, once they get to our ecosystem, we have a pretty built out onboarding system. So we have Maddie, which we call your onboarding buddy. She kind of helps you get into the systems and all that good stuff. And then she automatically, books about 3 coaching calls with me right after that's done, just so that I can make sure that they start getting, like, that they feel familiar with the systems, if there's any clarification they need at that time. And then that's also where we really try to launch them into production.
Okay. And so you said that you're kind of fielding the recruiting calls. Are those inbound calls? Are those outbound calls where you're actually like trying to attract them, or are they kind of raising their hand saying, I'm interested?
We do a couple different things. So right now we're piloting 3 different companies, Humanize, Smart Setter, and then we have a partnership with Andre, and I want to say he was texting Betty for another company that we worked with, and he switched over to recruiting about 4 months ago. So we're kind of piloting all 3 of them right now. So they do set appointments for us. And Humanize is more like Indeed-based ads, and more like job posting ads. Smart Setter goes through Corded. So they actually attract, we can give them a parameter of we're like, hey, we want people that are producing from, I think we did originally like $3 million to $5 million in production. And so they'll kind of reach out to those type of people, see if they're interested in the conversation, then book me an appointment. And then Andre's kind of similar. He uses previous data or previous production to target certain agents. And that's what we're kind of leaning towards, because to be honest, the ones that are job postings, we get a lot of people that aren't licensed, they're brand new, not necessarily a bad thing, but they're a little tougher to get going, where if you have a producer who just has some holes in their game, it's so much easier to fill those holes.
And I'm curious, because I'm familiar with a couple of the services that you mentioned. So what's the script that you're giving those services as they're making those calls and reaching out to the agents?
To be honest, I'm not quite. I know that Humanize basically just ask us. So actually, all 3 are kind of the same way. They just go, "Hey, what are you looking for? What's your avatar?" That's what a lot of people like to say for the recruitment. Like, what is your avatar? What's your ideal agent? So we give them that criteria, and then they kind of run with it.
Okay. And during your calls, as they're kind of self-selecting in through these services, are you talking about Zillow Flex specifically in your conversations with them?
I do bring up Zillow Flex because we have Zillow Flex in New Mexico and Dallas, so we're able to get those two markets with a Flex account. We're working on Florida. That's kind of our. Oh no, and actually no, we have Zillow Flex in Boston too. So we have three different Flex accounts in three different states, and we're working on Florida. That's kind of our next. Florida and Arizona. We're going to see which one moves a little bit quicker. But no, if they are in the market for that has a Flex account, I do mention Flex because that is
And
a very big value add.
yeah, no doubt. And what do you say about it?
So, well, and yeah, probably when you were talking to Christina, we operate a little bit different than everyone else. We have a full blown concierge department that's in house. So I kind of touch on the base that one, we have a flex account because if you do have a flex account, that already kind of is an accreditation in my, or like it's a credential in my opinion. It means that you are a producing team that Zillow goes, hey, we want to partner with you, especially in a market like Albuquerque where there's still MVP pricing, where only 3 teams got flex. Initially, we've been only one of 3 for the last 4 years. They just brought on 13 more teams as of a couple weeks ago, but that's because they're usually market indicators mean that they're going to flip fully over to flex, and so we know that was kind of coming, and it's probably going to happen in some of our other markets. But I do mention that where it's like, hey, we have a partnership with Zillow, and it's because of our performance. Now, that was pretty cool. Is I get to throw that stat out that we were the #1 sell team for Zillow in last year of July across the nation, which was really cool too. So I definitely hit on at least that being a credential as to why we're a performing team.
Okay. And when I know that you guys have an ISA team. I think that's what you mean when you say you're concierge.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We just call them concierge. Yeah.
And Christine and I talked about that at length. It adds a different dynamic into the conversation, and into the training and onboarding as well. So I'm curious, once you got these individuals, they say, yeah, that sounds great. Can't wait to join. Are we putting them through any sort of sniff test, PACES tests before we say welcome to the team? And then same question when we bring them to the Zillow Flex team.
Yep. So we don't really differentiate between our lead team and Zillow Flex team, but we do have a kind of, you got to earn your right on the lead team. So what that kind of looks like is, well, one, we have a summit, or we call it summit, which is a 1-week condensed course where you meet all of our reps. We try to run it about once a quarter, but it's recorded so they can view it online. So if we recruit an agent in between summits, we just have them go view the videos so that they can get kind of familiarized with our systems and a part of those trainings are lead flow, accountability. I do an in the fields training too, like what we expect when you go on the first appointment, what we expect on that first phone call. And then essentially what happens is once they complete the summit, they go into our summit leads, our class channel essentially. And so any lead that's not picked up in our lead team will then drop in the summit leads channel where they get an opportunity to prove to us that they are ready to work leads. And if they convert one lead out of that summit lead channel, then they get upgraded to the lead team. And then once they're at the lead team, Christina probably mentioned, we have very hardcore metrics that they have to meet on a weekly basis to even be a part of that lead team consistently.
So it kind of sounds like AAA ball, essentially, where they're kind of getting drafted up to the majors. You said that it's the leads that your lead team didn't pick up, like literally a lead went out, they didn't pick it up, so then it routes back to that team?
Well, so we only allow 5 minutes. So when a lead drops into our Slack channel, it is speed a lead. That is the name of the game. If it is not touched within 5 minutes by an agent, yep, it drops into the Summit channel. If it's not touched in the Summit channel within 5 minutes, then it drops to the main channel.
So sorry, there's the main the big team, right? And then you have the summit team, the people who've gone through the training but haven't yet handled leads. And then you said it drops to the main channel?
Main channel. So the main channel is like, it includes our independent agents that aren't a part. So we have 2 different ways that you can join our team. One is the lead side where the splits are a lot of, they're going to be a lot heftier because, we provide resources, coaching, admin, all that good stuff. And then we have an independent side. But the independent side, then if they wanted to pick up that team, it does turn into a lead split. At that point, they understand that, but it gives them the opportunity to, it basically, we're going, hey, no one's touching this, or no one's available, because our concierge department, they schedule the appointment before it even goes into our Slack channel. That way our agents aren't having to dig through the trash or like do the cold calls and all that. Once it's a bona fide appointment where they're like, hey, I'm not working with an agent, I don't have a BBA signed with anyone else, and I can go see the property at this time in this zip code, that's when we go into the Slack channel. Then once it's the Slack channel, if no one's available for it, and because I mean, every once in a while you're going to get a zip code that's an hour and a half away. And so sometimes our lead team's like, I'm going to be a little bit pickier about what I pick up. So then it goes in the Summit channel, usually our Summit channel, because they want to earn a spot, we'll usually pick it up. But sometimes there's only, 5 to 6 agents in that Summit channel and no one are available for that time. So then cool, we'll throw it into our overall group that includes everyone just to make sure that that lead is at least serviced.
Got it. And out of curiosity, are the people who are in your main channel but not part of Summit or the lead team, they've already gone through the Zillow Academy training necessary to take on Zillow leads?
Most of them usually have, because they're still a part of our Zillow ecosystem, like on our page. But
Okay.
most of the independent people too, they're usually producers. They're usually are more experienced agents. They don't need the coaching. They don't necessarily rely on the leads. They're doing a lot of sphere of influence business. So, and if worst case, we have to do like a referral or have to do something different for Zillow, we've been able to do that.
Does that happen very often? I'm curious, like what percentage goes from the lead team to the Summit, first
Very.
off?
So the lead team website, it doesn't happen very often, but we also, so like if we notice that a couple of leads haven't dropped in the Summit channel, I'll like pick a week and I'll be like, hey, can you guys drop 3 appointments? Because we set, I could probably actually tell you exactly what we set last month.
And by the way, if you want to share like visuals or anything like that, you have the right to do that on here. It's that little plus button in the middle of the control centers.
So like so essentially what happens is anytime that our concierge sets an appointment, they have to fill out a Google form that drops into my Google sheet. And this is how I track all the appointments. And they ask they do everything from the showing time, ALM notes. So like what they were able to derive from the conversation, if they're financing or paying cash, if they have a lender, who's the lender's name, any additional notes, the lead source, and then who's the agent that actually took the lead. And then if it was just one person that took the lead, we don't count it in our rotation, because we basically we tell that because it's a rotating. So like when they drop into our Slack channel, we do it on a rotational basis for the lead team. But if it's only one agent that responds, we're like, hey, like, good job. Thank you for taking the lead. No one else responded. So we're not going to count that against your rotation. But what I was going to say is, so like last month,
So can I make sure I heard you right?
Yeah.
So in your Slack channel, a lead comes in, it goes to the lead team Slack channel, and it's assigned to somebody or somebody calls ball.
Yeah. So what happens is the concierge goes appointment, and we don't put the address, because what we realized with putting the address is people will price point. If they're like, oh, it's a $500,000 house, cool, I'm taking that one. Oh, it's 150, I'm staying back. And so we stopped putting the address. We just put the zip code and the time. So if you're available for that zip code and time, you raise your hand, and if you're next in rotation, you get that lead. And so what I was saying though is that if you're the only agent to respond to that lead, we don't count it against your rotation, because we're like, hey, no one else responded. We're not going to count that against you. You took a lead that no one else was going to even try to take.
Got you. So then if 3 people, so it's not just like whoever's next in the order of some sort of roster. It's the 3 people who raise their hand, whichever one of those 3s would have been next in the rotation. We're giving it to that person. But if I raise my hand and nobody else does, even if I'm next in rotation, you don't count it against me. You're going to get me my next up anyways. Got it.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And then, so what I was going to say is, so like last month we handed out 155 confirmed appointments. And so, if we have like a low, like say I see the Summit class channel and it's like, it's been kind of dry for them, I'll let my concierge know, like, hey, can you guys drop like 3 leads this week into this channel? Let's give them a little bit of a bone to bite on. And so then they'll drop those 3 leads in there.
I'm curious, and you guys are obviously crushing it. So take this as just me playing devil's advocate. Why not have your Summit team work cold and zombie leads as a way of earning their way onto the regular lead team?
So the biggest reason and it's kind of the same reason we didn't have our agents do the first initial call, is because what we realized is I'm one person, and it's way easier for me to coach 3 concierges that sit in the same office as me every single day, and I can hear their phone conversations and I can see all the interactions they're having, I can fine tune them very, very quickly. Where when we were having rotations of agents, or even if I were to do that with the Summit channel, because I'm getting a fresh batch every time, we're chancing the fact that we are going to drop the ball or we're going to have a dip in our appointment setting rate because they're new. They're going to make mistakes, which is fine, but I have individual coaching calls with them. So I'm going to slow roll them a little bit more without them taking a big brunt. Because if I had 6 people on the lead channel, like I said, 155 lead or 155 just appointments, that's not just overall leads that came in. There's a big chance that one of them could drop the ball heavy, and that could be 20 appointments just gone. And so that's why it's a lot easier to keep it a controlled environment where I hear everything and they're in my office consistently. And now they have the scripts down to like the T. And if we ever have to make an adjustment, like when ZHL came out, all right, well, we got to start pushing some ZHL. I can make that adjustment extremely quickly with people that are already trained in my scripting.
And so that same sort of logic of the new leads coming in, you're saying, there's a path, an approach to converting cold leads that works, and I need to control for that variable with a limited amount of people. Is that kind of the
Yeah,
thought?
it's easier to do it that way because again you're the factors out, or I can control the factors way more again with a small controlled group that's consistently with me rather than new batches or originally where you have 34 agents taking all the calls and I'm trying to listen to 34 different agent calls with different
Yeah.
personalities and different like ways and bad habits and stuff like that.
And so speaking of that, so as these summit agents take these calls, is that showing up in their one-to-one coaching? Are you grabbing their first call that they get in terms of their first at bat and doing anything with that, or do you just coach the broader team on calls? How do you do that?
So I've got a couple different touch points with how we do that. So I run a weekly pipeline. So I do every Wednesday and every Thursday, depending. I do separate market pipelines. So I'll do like out, and I actually have 2 pipelines with Albuquerque because our team is so big. So I dedicate
Okay.
45 minutes to one half the team, another 45 minutes to the other half the team. So on a weekly basis, I'm touching every single lead that's top of funnel. And so that's my opportunity that if I do see the ball dropped or I'm like, this looks a little funky, I'll dive into the call, I'll dive into the text, and we can handle it right there where it's real-time ejection handling. And then we have Friday scripting. So I run a scripting class every Friday too, in which we go over real-time objections too. And I also open it up to the floor where, a lot of the new agents luckily will take advantage of it, especially if like one speaks up, where they're like, hey, I had a difficult call and I don't know how to handle this. Cool, let's review it as a group. Let's get some insights from our top producers and let's handle it at that point too. Then we also have an accountability checker. So he's my head concierge. And what he does is he meets with the newer agents on a weekly basis, and then they stair step to like biweekly and then monthly, depending on their cadence and their experience. But basically, we utilize Sisu too. Are you familiar with Sisu, the metric
Sure.
check? Okay, so we use Sisu for all of our goal tracking. So anytime an agent onboards with me, I set their goals for the year, and if they're not hitting 70% of their goals, we automatically book a coaching call. So my accountability manager meets with the agent, goes, okay, let's check your CSU. We also have Shiloh, so they check their Shiloh too and give them the insights for the 3 top strengths and 3 top weaknesses. And then, yeah, if they're not hitting 70% of their goal, cool, they're automatically getting coached with me, or they're booking a coaching call on my calendar. And so there's a couple different ways that we try to catch it. I don't necessarily do the granular where you're like, hey, I listen to every single first phone call just because there's, again, with our full ecosystem of 60 agents, it's just a lot of things that we got to keep eyes on. So we try to catch it as best as we can with some of those check marks throughout the week.
Okay. And I've talked to some teams where they refer to it as reviewing the tape, where as a group they'll listen to good calls and they'll also listen to, let's just say, not so great calls. Do you guys do that as well?
I haven't really done that as much. Our Zillow rep has mentioned that in the past, and that's the cool part too. We've had some really good Zillow reps. So like my Zillow rep will do calls with my concierge and review the tapes. That's exactly what they do. On the larger scale, I haven't really dove into that too much. Just because if I do usually, if an agent's struggling there, I'm going to catch them on the coaching side. And I don't know how effective it would be. And maybe, that could be something we always look at, but I don't know how effective it would be if I called them out kind of in like a bigger group. Because when you're that agent that's a bad call, you're sitting there going, it just, it's not the most motivating thing, which I would love, if everyone had that mentality where it's like, cool, like I understand we have to get better, I'm gonna get better. But unfortunately, that's not the case for a lot of people. And instead, they usually shut down more and they're afraid to even take leads because they're like, I don't want to ever be brought up again.
Yeah, got it. Hey, as an aside, if it helps you, Zoocasa is the biggest Zillow Flex team that there is, and EXP owns Zoocasa.
Okay.
And I was talking to the head of the ISAs there, and he, in their weekly meeting, he actually has one of their meetings where each week he asks them, "Hey, share a good call or share a really bad call," and they, they do. They actually share their bad calls and come in and they've got a good culture on that team where everybody kind of is very, very respectful because of that. But I don't know if that helps you or not.
No, that's interesting that he puts it in their lap rather than like me picking the call. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you had a bad call, let's listen to it, and it's more of a constructive criticism rather than like a call out. No, so that's an interesting point.
Hey, what he said was there's sometimes people just bring like a funny call where somebody's telling them off,
Yeah.
and sometimes
No, we have a
they
couple of
bring,
those.
yeah, right. Sometimes they bring legit calls that like an objection came up and they just didn't know what to do, and so they're bringing the call to the group to get input and things like that. But they also then bring great calls like slam dunks. They said this and then I said that and it worked, kind of a thing. So. Back to how you guys operate. So you go through the summit, then you get it put into this kind of tiering system, and I know each week you guys have I think it's like 7 or 8 check boxes that they have to check if they want to continue to retain leads for the following week, and if they don't, they're out for the week. What are those check boxes?
Yeah, let me actually. So yeah, every week we post the lead team, and then this is the metric that we have, or the metrics that we keep them to. So they do have to attend the team meeting.
Okay.
If they're a sell team, on our sell team, they have to do Monday seller update. So Monday seller update is basically like, hey, this is what closed in your neighborhood. This is the amount of showings. It's just some type of touch point to make sure, because what we realized, we actually just added this not too long ago. What we realized is, a lot of agents, they'll put a listing up and they're like, there's no activity this week, so I didn't talk to my seller. But then the seller is like calling the office going, hey, like, what's going on? Like, I don't hear from my agent. So we're like, hey, everyone's going to touch base at least once a week with their seller, even if there's no activity, even if there's no update. Cool. Put stats about the neighborhood. You can do national or the state stats, just something to kind of touch base with them. They do have to attend the pipeline. Yeah.
So I'm curious. 2 things. Number one, are they doing that through FUB so you have visibility? And then number 2,
Yes.
does that automatically update this spreadsheet, or do they have to go in and just manually say, yes, smiley face, I did it, and you can double check me if you don't believe me in FUB?
No, so we actually, our office admin does all this. So she goes
Okay.
in and makes sure that it's all been done. Because I wish that I could trust every single agent, but
Wait, what?
there's
You don't?
yeah, right. So no, we do a check ourselves. So no one can actually edit the stat. Maya, our office admin, actually checks all this. She sends it to leadership too, just to double check before we post it too.
Okay. And sorry, I
Um,
interrupted. So you were saying about the Monday seller
Oh, no,
update
you're
goes
good.
out.
So yeah, Monday seller update pipelines. So they do have to attend the pipeline if they're on the lead team. Zillow updates. Those are due at Thursday at
Sorry,
12. So that's when.
what's
Oh, go for it.
what's I'm so sorry to slow things down, but
You're good.
when you say they have to attend the pipelines, what is pipelines?
So pipelines that weekly on Wednesdays and Thursdays that I go through all the top of funnel. So like I said, for like New Mexico, I'll split the team into 2, but I go through everyone from spoke with customer to under contract essentially.
Gotcha.
And then we do, so it's separate kind of pipeline. So I do a seller pipeline with just our sell team. I do 2 buyer pipelines with our Mexico, and then I do a pipeline with our Boston, pipeline with our Dallas, and then we're about to add Arizona because we just onboarded a new lead system with them too.
And how long are those meetings?
Say again.
I was just curious how long that pipeline meeting is.
About 45 minutes. I can usually get through about 60 to 70 clients in about 45 minutes, as long as everyone has their notes updated. That's the biggest thing. And that's where it's, again, kind of like an accountability check where I'm like, I'm clicking through. If you don't have communication at that point, cool. Like, we got to figure out why you're not communicating with your client. Or if you don't have updated notes based on an appointment, cool. We got to make sure that. That's also where we're checking the stages. Because I'm sure that you've talked with a lot of Zillow Flex. And the bane of my existence is making sure they have an updated stage and that they
Yeah.
click met with customer when they actually meet with the customer. So it's a good check-in point at that point too.
I'm curious. So let's say I've got leads at 3 stages, right? Met with client, did a second showing, contract. What is that conversation going to sound like? Are you going, okay, Brian, you're up. Let's see, you got 1, 2, or are they saying, hey, I'm up next. I got 1, 2, 3 Main Street. How does that work?
No, so basically what I do is inside FUB, whoever's on that pipeline, I already have them selected. I have the stages selected. And I have the sources selected. And no, I just click the top first one and we just go through every single client. And basically that's what exactly, it's kind of like I said, kind of an accountability check, also an opportunity to give them some insight. Or like to give them an idea, because like a lot of times they're going to go like, how do I re-engage that person? And I'll be like, okay, well, let's look at there's a little activity. Do they have something there? No. Okay. What did they look at last? Okay. And so then, this is what I would say. And then I'll even like type out some of their text for them, put it in the notes so they can just copy and paste it. But what I'm looking for is to make sure the stage is correct, make sure that they have a task set. Because if they don't have a task set, it's going to slip through the cracks. As much as everyone likes to believe they're going to remember to follow up, they don't. So task set and then updated notes on the last interaction.
Got it. Okay. Sorry. So you were saying, so that's pipelines.
Yeah.
And then next
so pipelines. Zillow updates, that's the when you're in Zillow Premier app, when it says contacts need updating, until I cannot wait until they get rid of that app and it's all in Follow Up Boss, but we have to play by that rule. So we just make sure that the client or the agents are doing that. Scripting is that Friday class that I hold where we do real-time role play, objection handling, kind of anything that's been permanent for that week. If we've seen something in the CRM, usually I'll bring it up then, or a lot of times I'll open up the floor in that beginning of that scripting class and go, hey, what are you guys dealing with? What do you want to go over? What's the hot topic of the week? Zero smart lists. So the smart list, we have a couple smart lists built out just to make sure that everyone has communication within 2 days. Just because if you're not communicating with if more than 2 days have passed by, something's going on. Now, if it's like a nurture client where it's like, hey, they're out of town for 2 weeks, cool. They just let Maya know, hey, this client is not going to be cleared from smart list because of XYZ. FUB tasks, they cannot have any overdue FUB tasks. That's again to just try to make sure no one's slipping through the cracks, and to make sure that they're actually following up with their clients. Handoff conversion, we do 10%. Now again, because our leads are a little bit different, they're not getting cold leads, they're getting bona fide appointments. We've realized that 10% is kind of the minimum, and we may actually raise it here soon because we have some really good killers that are above 16, 20%. There's even I think 60%. Now he has a small sample size, but we try to keep them at the conversion rate as well. And then open houses, they have to hold 2 open houses a month. That's a requirement as well. And then they have to have 1 pending or listing signed in 30 days. They have to always have something pending or listed, signed, or something new business-wise every 30 days.
Okay. And question on handoff conversion. That is once it goes through the concierge, the ISA team, gets handed to the agent. So the gentleman at the top there, Alfred, has a 10% conversion rate. So for every 10 calls that he's being handed by the ISA, he's converting 1 to an actual live appointment.
Yep, exactly. So I track all this, and it's a 3-month rolling average. So our team averages 17.8% conversion. So we've handed out 542 appointments over the last 3 months. 48 are currently pending and 49 have closed. But this is exactly how I track it. So how many, Alfred has 12. He's at 1 closed, so he needs to catch up before. And I do this on a monthly basis, the actual conversion 3-month rolling average, because I have to condense all this information. But this is exactly how we track it. We see how many leads they've taken in the last 3 months, how many they actually have under contract, and how many have closed in those last 3 months as well.
Okay, and is that closing rate percentage? That's different from the handoff rate conversion, is that right?
No. This is that conversion rate. So they have to make sure that they are. Okay. Yeah. Yep. This is exactly where I pull that list from.
Are you tracking or displaying in some way the appointment met just from that handoff initially? I get going.
Yeah. Well, so I don't necessarily track when it goes. Oh no, I guess yeah. So what I do is my concierge when they set. Sorry, why not this one? When they set an appointment, so that's what these mean. So the red means that they went back. So my concierge will set an appointment, and then they set themselves a task to go in and make sure the appointment happened.
Mm,
And then we actually just implemented a new thing where we're going to have the concierge call the client after the appointment just to do a temperature check. Hey, you just want to make sure that you met with the client or with the agent. How'd you feel? Just to get an extra set and really become a concierge. But if they don't make the appointment, then it's red. So I don't push my agents too much on that. I actually bonus my concierge based off that. So like Austin handed 34 appointments out, 31 were actually met in person. And I keep them to a higher standard because they're the ones setting the appointment. So I need to make sure you're setting a strong appointment. And if they don't meet the appointment and something falls through the cracks, or like say the agent dropped the ball or whatever, because the concierge doing that second check to make sure that the appointment was met, they'll go straight into re-engagement because they want that appointment. That's how they get bonused. That's where they make their money.
that's cool. Um, Man, there's so many questions I want to ask you. Going back to this though, I see that the one new pending listing signed in 30 days, and there's a few individuals there with an X. It, so do all of these need to have smiley faces, or else I'm off leads for the next week?
Yes.
Okay, and so with that one new pending, for example, if that one's not a smiley face, what do I do to get back into good graces and get back on here?
Yeah. So actually, this just happened with Brielle. That's where you see her 1X, but she is now going to be back on the lead team this Friday because that's where they have to go into mining. So they have to go into our ponds. They have to go dig out an old lead and convert it in order for it to satisfy that requirement. So they don't get any new leads because they're not on the lead team. But it's like, hey, you want back on the lead team? Cool. You got to go earn your spot again. So they have to go into our ponds. They sort based off last activity. We also post so on a daily basis. We post our Zillow Today list. So that is in. Oh, no, I think our admin. Actually, it's probably search over here. So every single day, our admin goes in and pulls the most recent 24-hour for all of our markets. So
Mhm.
these are all people that have clicked on a property in the last 24 hours. And if they're assigned to our ISA, the agent can reach out to the ISA and go, hey, can I help you beat up some leads? So I saw that this person was active. Or if you scroll all the way down to the bottom list, these are all people that just were in a pond that decided to click on a property. So that's a spot where the agents can kind of hop in and try to find that business as quickly as possible.
Got it. Got it. And going back to your checklist there, are there, because it seems like some of those, like, did they show up at a meeting? Okay, they didn't, so now they're off. So now next week they better show up, and if they do, they get back in. Or are there other things that maybe that included where they have to go back in and do the work of working a lead from the pond? Like I'm looking at handoff conversion percentage. I see a few of those that are in the red. Is that what's going to happen, or are there other things in
Yeah.
here that
So
I have to go prove myself again?
no, no. I mean, the meetings are easy. I mean, that's you just got to show up the next week. That's an easy requirement that you can adjust on a weekly basis. The only ones that are tough to kind of do are yeah, your conversion and then your pending. The conversion, because I do it on a monthly base, that's tough. Like if you have below 10% conversion, like you're gonna have to work your butt off that next month because you're off leads for about 4 weeks. Because and here's the thing too. The reason that we do that too is because if you took 20 leads and you only converted one of them, so you'd be at a 5% conversion. Well, I know you have 20 leads in your ecosystem. You got to go dig something else out. If everyone else is above a 10%, that means that you're leaving business on the table. So that means that next month, you got to work those 20 leads for that next month as hard as possible to try to pull that back out. And then also, I do take into account, so on my spreadsheet too, that's one of the things that I track as well, is I do look at re-engaged or older leads. So if they brought a lead back to life and they pulled it out, or say they had a lead that was handed to them back in January and they finally got it pending and it took them 8 months to do it. Cool. I'm going to track that and I count that in your conversion as well.
So if I'm hearing you right, then there's some of those where it's just going to be a week off, and if you show back up next week, you're back on. The pending is going to be until you do. Could be 3 days, could be 5 days, could be 5 years. Up to you. Get it done. the handoff conversion is going to be a minimum of 4 weeks, but it could be longer. And because you're only tracking that stat on a 4 week cycle, if you don't have it in the next 4 weeks, then it's going to be an additional 4 weeks at least before you're back on. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And then, I mean, you might get to the point if you hit, 3, 4 weeks, because I only do a 3 month rolling average, then that's your chance that you potentially could get back on leads. And at that point, you would just have to do another conversion. We'd probably have you go through our summit lead channel again. But I haven't had that happen yet. So I'd be curious to see what would happen if I had an agent. Yeah, that usually means that we have to do some really good coaching if it took you 3 months to convert a lead.
Okay. And one of the natural questions that a team leader would have, especially, if they're getting a volume of Zillow leads, they want to have as many of their team members ready to take leads as possible. I'm looking at all the X's and the red conversion rates and things like that. Is this pretty typical of a given week about how many people are going to get kicked off?
Yeah.
Okay.
So out of the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So out of the 21, there only 8 got kicked off. So we're still having, more than that would be just over like 60% of our lead team that will still always be on.
Okay. So about 60% are always on, and curious, the people who keep getting kicked off, with some regularity, what's that like?
Yeah, you kind of see them. Real estate's you eat what you kill, and so you kind of see they're either one. So there's 2 ways that kind of happen. One, they're killing on their COI, and they no longer need leads, and so the metrics don't necessarily matter to them anymore, which would be awesome. That's what I really try to coach to. I don't like our agents to be lead heavy. I want you to go, earn your own business. Or you see the other half where you start to notice that agent starts to flounder out. And it just may be that they're not built for this industry.
Got it. And I'm curious. There's these gold stars and smiley faces. Is there a difference, or did
Yes,
we just
there
get bored?
actually is.
Okay.
No, so no, so our stars we have a what's called our gold team. So the gold team is if you average 2 pendings a month for a 3-month rolling average, and you have produced $6 million in production the previous year. So you can only earn it on an annual basis. So we do it every, end of every year. If you produce $6 million a year and you're averaging 2 a month for the last 3-month rolling average, you get upgraded to our gold team. Gold team gets a separate lead channel that is all our luxury listings and luxury leads, because we want to reward you for being a higher producer, and usually that means that you have really good cadence. And so we're going to give you some of the better, leads, because usually luxury leads require that red carpet. And so that's how we determine and try to, keep those leads a little bit separate. But when you're on our gold team, that also means you're a high producer. So you do not have to necessarily go to our scripting, and you don't have to necessarily do the 2 open houses, because we know if you're on our gold team too, you're doing all the right stuff. There's a reason that you're producing at that high of a level.
Okay. And then does the same kind of waterfall logic apply, that if you're on the gold team, the lead comes in, if nobody raises their hand, it goes down to the lead team. If nobody raises their hand, it goes down to this. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. But when you post a luxury lead, everyone raises their hand. That doesn't happen very often from our gold team.
And I'm curious, is this pretty standard from week to week about where people are typically missing? Like I see a lot of people missing the meetings. Seems like more so than the pending. Is that pretty typical?
Yeah. So things happen. For instance, Haley, dad's having heart surgery. So it took her out for the last, I think, 2 weeks, and she's one of our newer agents. That's the reason our handoff conversion is low right now. But she actually had her first closing on tomorrow. She has her first closing tomorrow, and she had 2 appointments yesterday on a previous lead. So we'll see if she can kind of get back in the mix. And then Lance, he's one of our agents that doesn't necessarily do it full time, and his other work is just really picked up. So it really is situational based. But no, it kind of varies a little bit week by week.
Does the rest of the team see this, or is this just an administrative? Okay.
No, no.
And
So once it's cleared by admin, we post it every day and we go, Happy Friday, here are this week's stats and here's the revealed lead team.
it's sorry, you said here's the what lead team?
Oh, we reveal the lead team. Like this is the lead team for the week.
Okay, and this is one subset of the group here because I see Aubrey Bailey, three, four, five, six, about 11 folks on that list. So that's not the full team. Is that correct?
So that's you remember 8 of them were kicked off. So out of all these are the only ones that met their metrics. But we do it for every single. So we just started rolling out the metrics for every single market, and like this is our Dallas team. So same thing. They have their own set of metrics. But yeah, no, it's posted in the main group every single week for depending on what market they're in.
And this kind of brings me to a question too. I asked team leaders, how many people are on your team? How many people are on your Zillow team? And some are like, nah, it's the same, bro. I got too many leads, too few people. And some are like, you better jump through these hoops of fire and prove that you're ready for this because I'm not going to let you screw up everybody else, getting the Zillow leads. I'm not going to lose my Zillow Flex account over this. Where do you guys fall? I mean, when you have, it looks like about 11 folks in that area, does that put your back against the wall in terms of routing the lead flow volume? Does that mean that those 11 people are going to get a ton more leads than maybe they can handle?
No, well, if they do, so that's one of the things so when I review my monthly stats, I'll look for that. So because then I also will look at the volume of leads that they're because it does vary a little bit where and that's something that we do try to take into account. So even if they're at a 20% conversion rate, but they have triple the amount of leads than any other agent, okay, there's probably a capacity issue there though, because they're a great converter, but if they have triple the amount of leads than my other agents, then we probably got to slow them down. And that's stuff that we do internally. You don't obviously it's tough to kind of roll that out to agents to let them know that you're doing that behind the scenes. But no, that is something that I definitely do track because that is a concern. You will have some people because if they're on the lead team all 4 weeks and they're just scooping everything they can and their conversion is still above 10. But yeah, again, if the sample size is way bigger and they were able to only convert X amount, when I know that they're a higher converter than that, okay, then I have a capacity issue with them.
Okay. All right. So pretty good system and it sounds like you're kind of allowing for checks and balances that, of when the rules are a little too gray in this scenario. Um, can I switch gears with you? I want to ask you about coaching to conversion. So I've been talking to these top converters and you have several on your team that distance themselves from the rest of the team in terms of their conversion metrics. What is it about them that lends itself to that? And how do you train and coach to that for the next group?
So what I've realized is I coach this till I'm blue in the face. I mean, follow up is everything, but intentional follow up. There's a huge difference between follow up and intentional follow up. Follow up where I go, hey, just wanted to check in, see if you saw anything that you want to go see. That's not going to fly. Hey, I noticed that you were looking at this property on Zillow, or I don't say that. We like to say Zillow reached out to me because it gets a little creepy if you're like, hey, I saw what you're looking at on the website. Hey, Zillow reached out to me and they said you were looking at this property. Would you like to go see it this weekend? And then also what I've noticed, so like I could probably go into a lot of it, but so essentially, it comes down to the first appointment too. So one of the things that I coach to, and our high producers do this, is when you get that first appointment, you have to try to book 2 other showings in that same appointment. And I like to use an analogy like if I'm on a plane ride and it's 45 minutes and I sit next to someone, yeah, I might learn their name. I might know a little bit about them. But if I'm on a plane ride from there to Japan, by the end of that plane ride, I know that they have kids. I know what line of work they're in, because I have the time to do that. Same concept with showings. If I only have one showing, 20 minutes. I have 20 minutes to build rapport with you. If I have 3 showings, cool, I got you in the car for an hour. I'm going to know way more about you. I'm going to know the cadence. I'm going to know what you're kind of looking for. So that's one. The second thing is setting expectations at that first appointment too. So what I always like to tell them too is if I saw properties with them at 11 a.m. on Saturday, I'm going to probably assume that they're available next Saturday at 11 a.m. Will I try to book an appointment sooner? Absolutely. But I'm going to go ahead. Usually I'm going to say, hey, when would you like to go see houses next? And if like, I don't know, I'll have to check my appointment or I'll have to check my schedule. Well, do you think you might be available at the same time this week, next weekend? It seems like you might be available on Saturdays. Yeah, I typically am. Okay, perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and block out an hour for us next Saturday and just expect I'm going to be sending you a list of properties. And I always tell my agents too, this is one of the other things that I think is for our higher converters, they do it too. I'm not going to send you 15 properties. That's analysis paralysis. What you do, I like to use the analogy of like an ice cream shop. If I walk up to an ice cream place and there's 31 different flavors, I'm pretty concise if I'm going to pick one real quick. But my wife, oh my gosh, we're going to be there for 10, 15 minutes. And she's going to try all of them. And what's going to be funny is she's going to still pick one and still thought she should have picked mine.
Stop describing my life, Nate. Stop describing my life.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing with buyers where I'm like, listen, do not send them 15 to 20 properties. They're not going to know what to do. Send them 2 or 3 that fit their parameters based on the criteria they gave you, and they're going to pick 1 or 2 of them. And so that's another thing is, hey, set the expectation. I'm going to send you properties by a certain amount of time too. So I'm really big on setting time limits. I'm going to send it to you at 5 p.m., before 5 p.m., whatever the case may be, not later this evening, not tomorrow. I set a pretty specific time for them. I'm going to be back because I know when I'm going to be back in front of my computer. I know what my schedule looks like for that day. So I'm going to send you a couple properties by 5 p.m. Do you think you might be able to take a look at them at that point? If they say yes, cool. Now I have an expectation I can hold them to. So then when I send those properties and I go, and usually what I say too is like, hey, just give me a thumbs up if you want to go see all 3. Or if you don't like one of them, just let me know why so that I can continue to kind of narrow down your search to make sure that I'm only sending you properties that actually fit your criteria. And so then once we actually kind of do that, that's where, we'll set the expectations. Now we already have our next appointment set as well. So that's a big thing. And then, the follow-up part is, being just super intentional about the follow-up. When I follow up with someone, I try to reference the last point of follow-up. And if like, say, they're like, we're going to go on vacation for 2 weeks, whatever the case may be, I'm going to mention that in 2 weeks. But I'm also going to set the expectation, cool, is it okay if I follow up with you that Wednesday when you get back? Give you a couple of days to kind of settle down. Again, I'm setting a specific time. So what I've noticed with our highest producers is they're super intentional with their follow-up, and they're doing all of that stuff with every single lead. And you're going to have people fall off. You're going to have people ghost you. It's the name of the game. But if you do it with every single lead, your conversion is going to be way higher than if you were to try to guess and choose who you're going to do it with.
Okay, great. Well, listen, thank you, by the way, for doing this with me. This was amazing.